Hi world. So this is where I'm at. So this is on the internet, so it'll be out there forever. But for the sake of posterity, I guess, I'm recording this during COVID, um, and that is not making my progress any easier. A danger that often happens when I have had struggles with depression and stress is that it's very easy to slump, to just essentially form a U-shaped dent in your couch and just sit there and not really go anywhere, either physically going anywhere or mentally going in a better direction. Which yeah, that's bit of a problem, isn't it? Because in order to get better, I need to do stuff that will make the pandemic worse. So I'm kind of stuck. Um, it's essentially just not a lot easier to try and get better during COVID. So. In a stunning plot twist, this episode I'm revealing that COVID makes things more difficult. I know, I'm sorry. I hope you're sitting down when you're watching this. I have been able to do some progress though. I have exercised more this week. I have amassed the energy to go out for a run about every other day, which I think is the correct amount for me to do because I can feel my legs complaining a lot, and I don't want to do myself an injury so that I can't exercise, because exercising really is one of the best ways to deal with both depression and stress. For me, in terms of symptom treatment, but also in the terms of long-term benefits. So that has been good. It's another one of those catch-22s you often experience with mental illnesses, in that the very thing you need to do in order to get better is one of the things that's even harder for you. So I count that as a huge win. In less stellar news, I don't know if it's the medicine doing this to me or what it is, but I am continuously just feeling super drowsy. I already drank a lot of coffee before I started the medicine, like probably too much if I'm being honest. But I'm drinking even more now. Ooh, caffeine, love it. It's not a huge problem in the sense that I'm trapped in my apartment anyway, so it's not like I need the energy to do anything vis-a-vis a job or projects of that sort. But I have been trying to prepare some Dungeons and Dragons for a campaign I'm running, and the drowsiness I can feel is sadly making it more difficult for me to just sit down and be creative. It's like there's a fog in my mind as I try to imagine stuff, and coming up with ideas in that state is more difficult, and it's a huge problem for me because I've already talked about how much I love tabletop RPGs, but I also just love prepping them. Like, I find prepping incredibly soothing. I love digging through the monster manual. I love trying to come up with encounter building, and I can't do that as well right now. I'm hoping it's just this week, but time will tell. I have a doctor's appointment coming up in this ensuing week where we will discuss uh, how the medication is working. Oh yeah, I have I have started meditating again. Maybe I need to be careful with the the stylistic choices I have in my language, because I like to call medicating, but I also do like to call meditation meditating. And I would hate for anyone watching this to get those confused. But yeah, I'll probably talk a little bit more about meditating once I get that habit up and running again. So yeah, some ups and downs, some bumps in the road because of the circumstances we live in this godforsaken 21st century. Uh, so with that, I could really use something, a bit of a pick me up. So here's something that makes me happy. being a scout, when I talk about it here in this vlog, is probably going to be one more of those things where I end up just giving a vertical slice of why I love it, because it has so many facets to it. And I could probably talk about one of those facets for 10 minutes completely uninterrupted. And, that's just a fraction of the hobby. Um, but I suppose it's always a good place to start at the beginning. And the beginning, in my case, was I lived in Luxembourg when I was 6 years old till I was about 9. I tried on a lot of different hobbies when I was there, and one of them was scouting, and I had a lot of fun with that. Then we moved, and I think about a year or so passed where I didn't really attend scouts at all. But then some of my friends started talking about the fact that they attended scouts, and I thought, well, let's try that. And then I went for two of the weekly meetings, and ever since it has pretty much been a part of my life. And I've had a pretty wide-stretching scouting career, so to speak. In the interest of just talking about what I think are the best bits, I'll talk about the later parts. So when I was a senior in my troop, I have attended adventure races such as Solaris, and it's really a fantastic name for those events, adventure race. For the uninitiated, you are essentially sent hiking to these various activity stations where you are given a task, and once you're done with that, you are then assigned a point value for how well you completed it, and then you hike to the next task. Well, they're also usually, I should say, presented in this veneer of a story, and one of the stories for one of the races I attended was about given foreign aid. So we were supposed to, in the narrative frame, it doesn't actually happen, but in the narrative frame we were supposed to be relief aid for some African countries. On the way there, we were accosted by pirates, and the way that they presented this was that they had hired women, which, Danish Navy SEALs, that they were doing a drill using us as targets. So they essentially climbed our ship, escorted us into lifeboats, at which point we were then sent to an island. And once we were there, a chopper arrived and threw a box down to us with information pertaining to where we're supposed to go next. This happened this started whilst we were sleeping, and you just have to go along with it. And it was like, in the moment you've just been woken up, you are assailed by pirates, you are forced into a lifeboat, and you are sent out into an island. It really sucks in the moment, but then, like, once you're done with it, and it's just the memory of the experience, it's just so fantastic. And some of the tasks we were asked to do, one of them was that we were supposed to make sandals out of some very crude materials we were given, which seems perfectly benign. But another one was that we were supposed to assemble I suppose it's called a wind car. Essentially, we were supposed to build a car, attach a sail to it, and then using the wind, we would travel down the beach to get to our next destination. You just experience such incredible, crazy things, and you're tired, you're sleep deprived, you have walked for kilometers, you've been walking with equipment, so you're so tired. It really tests your boundaries, and you really get a sense for how much more you can do than what you think you can accomplish. So it's a confidence boost. It's a source for fantastic stories, and once you're done, like I normally have trouble sleeping. I have never slept as well as after a Solaris race. One of the Solaris races I attended was in Copenhagen, so I live in Aalborg, and we had to travel there by train. On the way home, we traveled by train. We had to change trains at the station. And I remember my fellow scouts waking me up, and the thing is, I got into the train, I sat in that incredibly soft chair, and I just went out like a light. And when I was woken up, I was supposed to gather my stuff and leave the train to get to a different train. I was so soundly asleep. I was so comfortable in this train seat because I was so tired that I genuinely weighed the pros and cons of what if I just stay on and then like need to deal with the hassle of navigating my way home later. That's some of the more, I suppose, extreme scouting. Some of the more cozy stuff includes just being out in the wilderness, being out in nature. During the summer, we were house sitting, and we invited some guests over. We were house sitting my parents' house, and they have the means for making a campfire out in their backyard. So we invited some friends over. The COVID restrictions were eased up at this point. We had a very pleasant summer in Denmark, all things considered. It's kind of funny when you've been a scout for as long as I have, but being around people who haven't actually sat around a campfire in ages. First of all, I got the huge bonus of feeling mega masculine, because being able to just start a fire, I mean, don't get me wrong, I use matchsticks. Who on earth has the time to do that trick with a stick? But everyone was like, wow, that's really impressive. And I was like, it actually isn't, but I'll happily let you believe that this was impressive. That was a huge boost, but also just hearing other non-scouts wax poetically about how calming and soothing it is to sit around a fire. It's something that's very easy to take for granted when, as I said, you have been a scout for as long as I have, because I have so many fond memories of sitting around a campfire and singing and sharing stories, or just talking. I had a reunion with some scout friends during the fall of last year. I say fall. During these times, I suppose that could be misunderstood. I mean autumn. During the autumn. We were just sitting around a campfire and talking. It wasn't really any fancy thing in terms of building a camp or anything. We were just sleeping out in the open, under open skies, sharing stories around a campfire. I feel like there's something almost primordial about sitting around a campfire. I talked about this being a vertical slice of why I like scouting, but I think maybe just splitting it into adventure races and into sitting around a campfire might be good enough for now. I don't think there's any harm in me in me saving some more scouting for later, because this is a weird hobby in that it encompasses so many different aspects and different activities. It's, I suppose, kind of unique in that sense. But yeah, having the memories of testing my boundaries with an adventure race and fond memories of sitting around a campfire, they're almost diametrically opposites in terms of how comfortable you are while it's happening. But both of them lead to fond memories. Both of them forge strong bonds with friends, and it's something I really enjoy sharing. So yeah, that's something that makes me happy. I have been a bit more chipper in the first two segments of this vlog here than I usually am. One is that, I'm feeling, more in a can-do mood right now, but it's also been because I'm going to talk about something quite heavy for this segment. The last couple of episodes I've been talking very broadly about how I feel and how it can presumably, probably, maybe be applied to how other people are feeling. But this is going to be slightly more personal as to why I have ended up in this situation. And it started at a somewhat early age for me. It has to do with a lot of different people. I don't know if they want to be made public, so I will just refer to them numerically to preserve anonymity. And essentially, it's just a story of how my relationship with these people had a unintended but very profoundly negative impact upon me. I should also make it clear, I am not going to be talking about blame, like who's at fault for anything here. I think that is actually a very good topic for a later video. How do you deal with assigning a guilt or blame for how you're feeling? It's complicated, and I often see people make these very strong dichotomies between who's at fault when, and I sadly think it's not that simple ever. At least not in a broad overview sense. It's very case by case. But with that in mind, I suppose I've been stalling enough. So this is a story of four friends. The first one it was a friend I acquired when I was in 6th grade, so I've been about 12, 13 years old. And I think about, must have been 3 years after that, his father died of cancer. It was a pretty prolonged process. So when he was in 10th grade, he was down one parent. That of course also was a trauma for him. Then a second friend that I made around the same time. His mom also got cancer, but she got better. She survived, thankfully, but it was not a obviously it wasn't a fun ride for anyone involved. It was as far as I could tell, touch and go for a while there, and that meant that their homestead was more challenged, not helped by the fact that the father fell into a stint of alcoholism, which, you know, a homestead already under that kind of pressure suddenly becomes that much more pressured. That's not ideal. But then I attended gymnasium, cultural equivalent for international viewers, if I have any of those, would be high schoolish, but just a smidge older. I got another friend, and her mother committed suicide, which also led to her developing a depression and her own suicidal thoughts. I talked a lot with her during that time. It wasn't easy to be a good friend, but you know, I did my best. I tried to listen, but obviously that impacted her on a very deep level. And then there was a fourth friend of mine who thankfully didn't lose any parents as of yet anyway, but she her parents got divorced, and they were pretty crudely, but from what I heard when I spoke with her, her parents were very childish, very immature, and would often use their children as carrier pigeons. They would often fight and use the children as various forms of ammunition to top it off. She didn't exactly get a lot of support from either of her parents. I also, on occasion, heard a lot of almost fairy tale like issues with dealing with step parents on either side. This might sound less severe than the other stories, but unfortunately, because of the immense, in part at least, because of the immense pressure from her very broken, very dysfunctional home life, she developed schizophrenia, started hearing voices. We attended primary school together, and we also started gymnasium, high school, together. But she got committed uh, to the hospital psych ward because of her schizophrenia. I was I was friends with all these people whilst a lot of this was happening. I am still friends with 3 out of 4. Not that I had any falling out, just loss of contact with one of them. I did my best to of course be as good a friend as I could be during this time, offer what support I could offer, but given the severity of these issues, of course there was a pretty hard limit to what I could actually accomplish in terms of making any kind of impact upon the struggles these friends of mine were dealing with. The impact that had on me, though, the thing I unfortunately internalized, was I really developed the sense that I wasn't allowed to feel sad. I've had a pretty cushy upbringing in many regards. I've never experienced my family being for want of money. My dad works in a bank. My mother's a nurse, so I also have excellent home health care in that regard. We live with a fair amount of privilege in that regard. And a lot of my very close friends not only lacked that privilege, but were also handed challenges that were incredibly unfair for them to have to deal with. None of these people deserve to have to deal with the bullshit I have just shared here. What I started internalizing, I wasn't aware I was doing it, but by the power of therapy, I've come to realize this is what happened. I developed a sense that how can I ever justify feeling sad about something? Like if I felt brokenhearted at some point, oh wow, a girl rejected you. How sad. That must really suck. And you can't even talk to your dad because he's dead. Oh wait, you can. You have, okay, yeah, but your dad, is an alcoholic, so he's probably, no, he's not. Oh, okay. Well, you do have to deal with your mother who committed suicide. No, wait, your mother's fine. She's alive and well, isn't she? I'm fairly certain this puts a lot of pressure on you, Chris, because this trauma has induced schizophrenia, and you're losing a certain sense of reality. You're hearing, you're fine. You're not dealing with that at all. That's okay. Well, what the fuck are you whining about? This may surprise very few of you, but that is not a particularly useful way of dealing with your own emotions. Not at all. It's in fact quite detrimental. Now, where it got even more insidious was I not only internalized I'm not allowed to feel sad for any reason, because people who are allowed to feel sad are amongst these friends I have just told you about, but I'm not allowed to be happy either. How dare I be happy? You have been born with a silver spoon shoved up your ass, and you have lived in a cozy ivory tower. You don't deserve to be happy. Your friend who lost his father deserves to be happy. Your friend who grew up in a household with an alcoholic father deserves to be happy. Your friend who lost her mother deserves to be happy. Your friend who has a struggle with schizophrenia deserves to be happy. You have not earned the right to be happy. That sort of places me in a state of limbo. Like I had internalized that whatever I was feeling was not okay. I wasn't and how can I live in that state? It seems so obvious when I try to put words to it here, and I'm so sad that it took me that many years to embrace it. But I spent so much time whenever I felt sad to tell myself, no, you're not. You don't have the right. You're not allowed to feel sad. And when I was happy, I would also spend time telling myself, how dare you be happy? Who gave you the right? That for quite a while gave me bad tools to deal with my emotions. I've gotten better. This was one of the first. This is one of the first breakthroughs I had through my first stint of therapy. The trick I uncovered was pretty gosh darn simple. Just I acknowledge that if I am feeling sad, well, then I'm sad, and there is nothing that can change that. That is how I feel. How I deal with that sadness can take many shapes, but step one has to be acknowledging that I am sad and embracing that it's okay for me to feel sad. And then in following that it's also okay for me to feel happy. But it has left some scars upon my mind in terms of how I approach my own emotions, the importance I place upon myself, and the validity I grant whatever I'm feeling. Step one then, if I am feeling sad, that's okay. I may need to approach why some things make me sad, but no matter what, in this moment, I am feeling these emotions. And whatever I do from that point onwards